very much, Nigel. Good morning to everybody here. Good morning to everybody online. It's great to see so many people here, and we've got some good stuff to tell you about today. So can I just I can't ask online, but I can ask in the room. How many people think they know what Innovate UK does? Good, good. I always like it when a lot of hands go up, because I can say, right, you can do this bit instead of me. No. I will do just a quick overview of what's happening at Innovate UK at the moment, because there are some current things that are going on, and give you a really quick view of the types of program that are around for funding and other things at the moment. And then we'll zoom in and focus on analysis for innovators, which is my pleasure to lead on. So I'm Jonathan Mitchener. I'm the innovation lead for emerging technologies at Innovate UK. That just means whoever chose the title Emerging Technologies thought that everybody else in the world would understand what they meant by the word, I think. So I always like to explain it. It's the things that we don't have programs in yet. That's the easy way I look at it, because if we have a program, then we call it a name and you know what it is. The emerging stuff is things that we think may be on the cusp of something big. They're not quite industries yet. They're not quite, when we first did synthetic biology many years ago now, that came from emerging technologies. There weren't any synthetic biologists in the UK at that time. Nobody had on their CV, I'm a synthetic biologist. Now lots of people do in that industry, in that sector. And that was part of the process of us investing in that area, because we thought it was ripe for the UK to do so. And so it was proved. And we've done it with other things since then. So that's my day job. And I'm really pleased that I have a little bit of time left over to talk to you about A4I, so we'll do that in a moment. But just to do the corporate slides that help position all of this. So Innovate UK is the UK's innovation agency. We're an agency of government at arm's length. We get given some taxpayers' money to do good things with industry. We try and help industry and companies grow and do better things and improve the way they work, and employ more people and generate more tax revenue and grow the economy, and that's the main thing, purpose of what we do, as Nigel alluded to for the KTN as well. And we do that because we want to help drive productivity and growth and all those good things. And A4I, which we'll come to soon, is a specific program aimed at that productivity and competitiveness angle. A lot of our stuff is to do with our programs are to do with inventing new things, new services, new products, innovative new things, and for companies on the cusp of doing something new. A4I is very different, as we'll see, because it's about people who are already doing good stuff, but it might not be the most innovative thing. You might not have an R&D department. Usually that's quite hard to interact with Innovate UK and get a grant. With A4I it's much easier, so I'll come back to that later. But this productivity and growth thing that's on the corporate slide is very, very pertinent for what we're talking about today. The communications people at Swindon always give me a slide that has all the numbers on. What I normally say about this is that we're doing a good job. I think we're doing better than we ever have before, and for the money that we invest as taxpayers' money, we get a decent amount back. We certainly get more back than before we were created. In 2007, government used to do this from within a Whitehall department of government, not an arm's length agency. They had civil servants picking winners for what they thought they should invest in to help industry. And they got about £3 back, I think, in those days for every pound they put in. You see our average is £7.30. It goes up to anything to £30 if we do different schemes. So I think it's better to employ people like me who, of course I would, who've got a background in actually doing R&D in industry, right? Working for companies in R&D labs, doing that work to help decide where to invest the money to do it better in the future. It's far easier to do that and get out on the streets and talk to businesses about what they need than it is to do it from an office in Whitehall. So I'm not surprised that number is better now, and it's getting better all the time. So I'm really pleased that we help a lot of companies. And with A4I today, I want to help a lot more companies as well. We are the innovation agency for the UK, so we always say that, but then it surprises people when I put up a chart that says we're actually working in 75 different countries. And actually, we have people in some of those countries now. So we have an Innovate UK person who lives and works in China. We have another one in India. And the purpose of that is to develop relationships with those governments so that we can do similar things but together. So, for example, in the future you may see opportunities to do collaborative working and collaborative projects funded partly by us and partly by that government's in that country's area. So there are higher value add companies emerging all the time in places like China, and when we can collaborate with them, we want to fund the UK element, and they want to fund the Chinese element, and we want to work together. So rather than it just be a supply and demand type thing. So I think that's very promising for the future. So we're investing in other countries, and we do a lot of work behind the scenes to try and make it easier for companies in the UK to take their innovations around the world and exploit them. One thing I just want to mention, because it's core to a lot of the programs that we do at the moment at Innovate UK, is the industrial strategy. Again, I can only do this as a straw poll in the room, so apologies to the people who are on live streaming, but how many people have seen or heard about the industrial strategy? That's very good. Okay, so when I started at Innovate UK, I think 2011, we had a government in those days that was non-interventionist as far as we were concerned. We used to get a grant of money, and we used to do good things with it, as I just said, to help business. Nowadays, we have a much more interventionist approach. Government today wants to understand what are the key areas for businesses in the UK that we should support, and they want to support that with an actual strategy and money behind the strategy. And I think that's the important thing. Lots of governments have strategies, but it's really important when you have money behind those strategies. So the industrial strategy is quite a tome of a document. If you have trouble sleeping, then by all means download it and read it in full. But there's 5 main foundations, and then there are 4 areas that, very broad areas, I have to say, which it focuses on. And those 4 areas are things that you will see reflected in a lot of the programs that Innovate UK funds now, because we tie in with the industrial strategy. But this hasn't been generated by somebody on the back of an envelope. There's a lot of work gone on to work out where we should place our bets for the UK in the future. We can't do everything. We have to put money in certain areas. It's not to say we don't fund any other areas. So if you're not in the industrial strategy 4 areas, then that's not a problem. But there are clearly priorities that come out of work like that, and we want to support that with the work that we do. So I said there's some money behind the industrial strategy. That's very important. And when you start talking about 4.3 billion extra money behind the industrial strategy over 4 years, that's a really important amount, even over 4 years. That's, politicians always mention the time scale over which they're going to spread the money. But even over that, it's a good deal, right? We were surprised, I think. Certainly I was surprised. And we get money routinely from government to do good things in industry. So 4.3 billion extra over 4 years is quite a good message. And that funds the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund. Nothing to do with A4I that we're talking about today, but it's a big amount. It's a big amount of money, and you will see challenge areas as they're identified in waves between now and 2021, and hopefully after that. So if we do a good job with this, and we actually do some good R&D collaboratively and grow the economy in those 4 areas, government should continue with that challenge fund after that. But certainly to 2021, it's very useful when government sets a path and commits over a time scale, certainly for business. When I worked in business, we wanted to know that there was money going forward, that it wasn't just a flash in the pan. And I think it's really good that the government not only is committed to having a strategy now and putting money behind it, but doing it over a period of time so that so everybody can have more surety about what's happening, especially in uncertain times. So you can expect challenge areas for Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund, ISCF. We say ISCF because it's a lot quicker and easier. You'll see a wave of these challenges coming out, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. We're on wave 3 challenge definition at the moment. And each of those challenge areas will be supported by competitions. So you can see this is quite a big thing. As Nigel said, you will all get the opportunity to download the slides, and there are some links like this one embedded within the slides. So I don't have time now because we're here for A4I, but if you want to go and look more about the Industrial Strategy Challenge Fund and what that means, then follow that link on this slide and you'll get chapter and verse. Just to give you an idea, so the Wave 1 challenges were done, the Wave 2 challenges are out there, and this is a selection of the 8 challenges that came out of that work. Fairly broad areas again, so if you've got a company that can work, or if you're an academic that works in those areas, and you can do what's on this slide, industrial-led, multidisciplinary research, and business academic collaboration, those are the key 3 things. In any of these areas, then you should be looking for the ISCF challenge competition in those spaces, because there's more money there and it's themed according to those challenges. So if I just summarise the landscape for funding from us at the moment, I've talked a bit about ISCF challenges because that is the biggest pot of money. So like I say, if you can fit into one of the challenges, I urge you to do so if you're looking for grant money from us. Because that is the only themed money that we do nowadays. We used to have themes by sectors, we used to have themes by technologies. For the moment, we're focusing that 4.3 billion over 4 years into the challenge areas. So those challenge areas are what theme the competitions. But we do have other things, because as I said before, you may not fit into the challenge areas that come out of each wave of ISCF. And if you don't, then our open responsive program, as we call it, again, it's responsive is a word that we use internally because we respond to people coming with ideas. But it's an open program. The scope is open, right? It's not themed at all. So if you've got any innovation that you want to apply for a grant for, then the open program is the way to do that. And that includes a number of different things like knowledge transfer partnerships and SBRI programs and things like this, where there isn't a theme associated. So the open program is our other corollary, if you like, to ISCF at the moment, which is a sizable program aimed at filling those gaps for the innovative things that we need to fund in the UK that don't fit into the challenges for ISCF. We also do other things these days. So we branched out into innovation loans. Now, the problem I always had as an innovation lead, when I went round to see a company after they've had a grant from us and done a project, and I turn up at the end and say, so what have you done and where are you going, what are you doing next? People used to say, well, we've developed it, we know we can do it now, you've helped us with the feasibility study and we've built the thing, but we need some money to get it out into the market to start making money from it. And the problem I always had is, well, we can't give you a grant for that because the state aid rules mean that you're so close to market that we have to put the intervention rate down to a silly percentage of 5 or 10%, and that doesn't help you, it's not worth us doing either from a cost point of view, and so we don't do it. So there is a gap in the market there, where we couldn't really help companies who were in a very specific place where they needed an injection of cash in order to get something going where they can make the money from the innovation they've had and get generating cash. And an innovation loan may fit the bill for some of those companies. And so I'm really pleased that we've got that off the ground now, and you'll see more of that, I think, going forward. It's also tied into our investor programs where we help the business angel and VC community in the UK to understand what we've funded and who we've funded, so that you can look at them for help with further funding as well. So we're doing a lot more in that area. You'll also see from time to time some regional partnership programs. We tend to do those with LEPs and other local organisations who get involved with things other than innovation, but they do that as well. So we thought it was a good idea to tie in with those and support the innovation programs of those local organisations. And there is some scope. I mean, if you look back at the industrial strategy, you'll see one of the things in there is place. Right? Government recognises that in certain places there are clusters of companies that do really good stuff in a particular field or a particular sector, and the money is much more efficient if you can apply it in a particular cluster than it is if you do it piecemeal in different companies individually. So that's why the regional part is so important when we do it. I mentioned international earlier on, and I mentioned that we put people in different countries to look forward to the time where we can do collaborative stuff in the way that we do now, but with other parts of the world and other governments. But we already have quite a big international program. So the Newton program is one I always like to decode, because again, it's a name that somebody in Innovate UK gave to this program, and it doesn't tell you anything about what it is. So I just spend a moment explaining to you what it is. So Newton is our program where we don't use money from the Department for Business and Energy and Industrial Strategy, part of government, but we accept money from the Overseas Aid Development part of government. And this is to help developing parts of the world with problems that they've got, but using innovative solutions and companies in the UK. So we help prime the pump, if you like, for you to use your innovation in solving a problem that somebody's got in a developing part of the world. That's a good use, I think, of the development aid money. Helps companies here, helps people in the developing world. So that's what Newton's about, and you'll see Newton competitions from time to time with challenges like that. We also do overseas missions as well, where we try and organise, again, there are very different VC venture capital type arrangements, say on the west coast of the US or in other parts of the world. And we like UK companies who are particularly innovative in particular areas to have access to some of those areas. And so we do missions where we have a little competition and the winners get to go to either the west coast or the east coast or Israel or wherever we think the hot spot is for the thing that we're focusing on in that particular mission. And we put you in front, we give you some help with how to present and stuff, and you go in front of those people. You meet other companies, you meet other investors, so that's the mission type stuff, and that's international as well. So hopefully that gives you a flavour of where we are with Innovate UK in terms of the competition. So the themed competitions by and large are ISCF challenge driven. The open programme is for people who've got either smaller things or things that don't fit into those ISCF challenge areas, and we fund an awful lot. The open programme has got a lot bigger in recent times. It used to be quite a small programme. It's now much bigger. And I wouldn't have chosen the word open to describe the programme had it been me, because we often talk about our competitions being open or closed. And so the open programme is sometimes open and then closes, which doesn't really make sense. So just my little joke. So what I like to do is say, well, actually from now on, the open programme is always open. You can consider it always open, because as soon as we close one, we're going to open another one, right? So I think that makes it easier for business, because you don't have to link in with when we happen to open something, when we happen to close it. You put your innovation in, it goes into whatever round is open at the time. And I think that's a much better way to do it. So we made two changes to open programme. One is we made it a bit bigger, because it needs to be beefed up. So there's more money in the open programme than there was, and also it's open all the time, because when we close one, we now open it again. So it's always open. So it's a much better name now than it used to be. So that's the broad scope of the landscape. As I say, there are some other things that we do. And there are also competitions and programmes that we run in partnership with other organisations. And that's where A4I comes in, because I couldn't run A4I without the partners, including the Knowledge Transfer Network and Nigel, and largely Nigel, although he's got a great team as well. But we couldn't run A4I without these people. It's a part of the program. It's not one of these programs where you work with somebody. It's a byproduct sort of thing. This is core to A4I. We can't run A4I if the partners disappear and say no, we don't do this anymore. We couldn't run A4I, and I hope that will come out when I talk about that in a moment. But that's just any quick queries or clarifications on Innovate and where we are at the moment. Yes, sir. Does somebody want to put a mic in front of you? Hang on, sir. Because otherwise people online hear the answer, they don't hear the question, which is a bit awkward when I've been online. Go ahead.
Does it start? Yeah. Okay. Just a quick question. If we did have, let's say, something that qualified to the ISCF,
right.
Would you say it's better to do that instead of the open? I mean, if one had to choose one or the other.
Yes, that's a good question. Let me put it a different way. I think people always say, what's my chance of succeeding in different programs? Well, we can't tell you that, because until we've got the people applying to it, we don't know what the numbers are, so we really don't know what the percentages are. We know in general terms, and of course, if you've got a themed competition, like an ISCF competition, there will be fewer people applying to it, because there are fewer people in that sector or that challenge area than in open, because anybody can apply in open, and they do. So I would say, if you've got something that matches an ISCF challenge, I would put my bet there first, if I were you. But that's purely on just on the scoping and the numbers, right? I think that's the best thing to do. But applying for one doesn't bar you from applying to another. I mean, you can apply for different things in different programs and things. We're not mad about saying, well, you've had one go at ISCF with something, so you can never have a go at the open program. It's not like that. So. But I would throw my counters towards ISCF if I qualify. I wouldn't try and shoehorn something that's not ISCF into a challenge, because I think it's the best place to go, right? That doesn't work either. over my time in Innovate UK and Technology Strategy Board, as we called before that, I've always told people, in my experience, I've looked at a lot of applications, and the ones that get filtered out immediately on scope are the ones where it's obvious that somebody's shoehorning something into a scope which isn't really in scope. And it's a waste of your time, so I really wouldn't advise you to do that. But does that answer the sort of question? Yeah, okay, good. Just one more, yep. Lady at the back there, in the corner. Nice to have some interaction first thing. I'm limbering up.
It's a sort of follow-on question, actually, to do with if you do apply for one thing, whether or not you get the funding, if that comes around again and you've got a slightly different problem, can you apply again? And if you do then apply again, I know that there's something on the form that says, is this a resubmission? Or,
right.
How do you identify whether you've already applied? Or
we will talk about that under eligibility later for A4I specifically, but if you're applying to something, we're not trying to exclude you, right? So providing you're not just trying to get the same money for the same thing when you've already been told that's out of scope in the same competition, then clearly it's not worth it reapplying because you were out of scope last time. If you haven't changed it, you'll be out of scope again. So that would be my main comment. I mean, it's tricky because until somebody rewrites their problem in a different way, you don't quite know whether it's a different materially or not. But if materially it's a different problem, or you're looking at a different aspect, certainly in terms of A4I, if you're looking at a different aspect to the problem, because the aspect that you were looking at last time when you tried and you weren't successful wasn't in scope, but you're looking at it from a different perspective this time, so maybe different partners would be interested in looking at a solution with you, for example, then yes, you can apply again, because there's no problem with that.
And on the form, do you say this, I have applied before, or do you leave it blank because it's a different application, because it's a different...
If you believe it's a materially different application, you shouldn't tick that it's a resubmission.
Okay.
Okay? Great, thank you. So let's move on, because we're not encumbered with huge amounts of time today, and we've got a lot to go through, and I really want your help here with analysis for innovators, because I have a task of trying to help as many companies as I can with this program, and I know that the timescales are extremely short. I'm sure you've looked at the timescales and you're thinking, gosh, he's doing this briefing today and it closes at midday on Thursday this week, so what the hell is he playing at? Well, better that I do this than not give you the opportunity at all. All right? I still want to help you, as many of you as possible. I'm trying to make it as lean a process as possible for you to apply to this first stage, so you haven't got to do a lot before Thursday. Probably, if you've got a decent problem in your company that you've been trying to solve for ages, you know what it is anyway by now, so it's a case of writing it down so somebody else understands it. And we have been briefing on this, albeit sometimes silently. He says, looking at Nigel. No, I mean, I went to Scotland and did a briefing on this about 3 weeks ago. So we have been drip feeding this across. We always do an official briefing after it opens, and this was the only slot today we could do. And for reasons I won't bore you with, hands up, I wouldn't run a competition like this with the timescales that I'm running it at. There are people in Innovate UK, and I don't mind saying this on the record, there are people at Innovate UK who told me this could not be done. So I want you to help me today to prove that it can be done, that I will get some applications, that I will get enough to spend the money that I've got for this, because I think it's really good. I think, I wouldn't be standing here, quite frankly, if I didn't think this was a great scheme. I wouldn't be doing it time and time again. This is the third round of A4I now. We've done it slightly differently every time. This is one where we've never done mini projects before to get a start on problems. I've looked at some of the problems we've had in previous rounds and thought, wow, they've solved really hard things here. And it took some time, but if they'd have got off to a quicker start, because they could have looked at the problem first in a really quick way and got going, we would have made more progress with the big project later. So I'm not so worried about the fact that it's for mini projects this time. I was slightly constrained, shall we say, on how I can use the money and by what time. But I thought it's better to use the money in mini projects and get this out to you than to give it back to government and say do something else with it, right? So I hope you're with me on that. So I need your help today. Even if you don't apply, you don't have a problem. Think if you've got a friend in a company who might have a problem, and get them to apply before Thursday at noon, all right? Because they ain't got to do a lot. Now, joking aside, this is a completely different program. Hands up here, just again, sorry about the people online, because I wish I could do a hands up online. There are mechanisms, but it never works. Properly in my experience. How many people here have heard about A4I before? About half the room, okay. So, well, I should put my hand up, I suppose. Nigel knows about it by now. He used to have dreams about it, I think. We both have nightmares about it. So, yeah, A4I, Analysis for Innovate, it is a completely different type of program than Innovate UK had ever done before, right? I was the bloke who was standing on, I'll tell you a true story. I was standing on a rural railway station one morning. My director phoned me up, this was years ago when we did the first one, and I was on a crackly mobile phone line, and he mumbled something about an idea for a new type of competition that we'd never done before, and said, would you be interested? And I didn't really hear what he said, but I said yes anyway, because I like a challenge. And that was A4I, and we built it from there, and we've defined it from there. So it is really different, and I'm going to tell you first, in the first part of this presentation, I want to talk to you about why it's different, because it's really important that you understand that it's not like the other things that we do, and why it's not like that, and how it can be different. So, the first reason that it's different is that it's focused on problem solving. It's not focused on, I want to do a project to develop something new, and this is the thing I want to build, and this is how much you need to give me. Right? That's not about that. It's about, I've got a problem, maybe I've had a knotty problem in my company with what we do. We've been making, let me do the widget example. But, you know, I've got a company, I make widgets, I've been making widgets for 20 years, but 5% of them always fail, and I have to throw them away. And I've never understood why. I don't have an R&D lab. I don't have the luxury of experts to look at the insides of what we make and understand at the atomic level why it fails in 5% of the, why I have to waste this money throwing those 5% away. And I'll never find out, because I've tried different things. I've tried heating it up a bit more or heating it a bit less, and it doesn't help. And I've never really understood that, right? And so I just put up with it. Those are the people, not just the people, but those are a category of companies and people, applicants I want for this program. Because we don't have another program that helps people like that, right, with those problems. And we can bring the best brains and expertise and resources and innovation, and this is where the innovation bit comes in, because I can't fund it if it's not innovative. That's in my charter. So that's where the innovation comes in. We can bring the innovation to help solve your problem. And we don't guarantee to solve every problem. We look at addressing the problems. We solved an awful lot of them in 2 rounds gone by, and we will in this one as well. But it's about problem solving. So all you have to have by Thursday noon is a problem. Now, who hasn't got problems? Now, there is a slight rider on that, because last time we ran this in round 2, I'm not going to call anybody out by name, but we did have one particularly interesting problem that was nothing to do with measurement and analysis, and it was nothing I could even help with. Somebody just wanted to buy more of something, and I can't really help with that, right, with this. But aside from that, if you've got something that fits the very broad scope that I'm going to talk about, then for goodness sake, write your problem down, put it in. You've got nothing to lose. You ain't got to waste a lot of time, because you've only got till Thursday lunchtime, right? So put it in. We'll sort out whether it's in scope. We'll sort out whether anybody can help you. If we can't, if we think it's solvable some other way, we'll give you some feedback. That might help anyway. If we think we can help, you get to meet these experts for nothing, no extra charge, no extra work, right? Nigel will convene a meeting so that you can meet the scientist who thinks he's got a handle on your problem, and you can discuss it. You don't have to do anything else. But if you do want to do a project with those scientists about solving it and addressing it, that's great. We'll fund that as well. So that's the broad thing. It's about problem solving. It's not about thinking of a new product or service that you want to create. And that's the biggest difference for a lot of people from A4I and our other programs. And I have up to 3 million to spend on this, and it's quite difficult to spend 3 million this quickly, I can tell you. So help me. Another reason why it's different is its focus, as I alluded before, it's focused on productivity and competitiveness. Right? I want you to give me problems where you can say, I won't waste 5% of my widget making if you can help me solve this problem. It will save me money and make me more competitive, because government wants our businesses in the UK to be more competitive. I want them to be more competitive. You probably want you to be more competitive without working longer hours. If you're throwing less away, or any other problem, I'm just using the widget throwaway example and wastage as an example, but if you've got a problem that causes you productivity issues, that you could save a shed load of stuff, or you could get to a new market because your specification for what you make is just out of spec, and if it was a bit higher spec, you could measure that spec a bit better, you could get it out to a new marketplace and sell more of them to more people. That's another example. If it's about productivity or competitiveness, you could be more competitive than your competitors if you overcame this problem that you've got, or you think they haven't got the problem and you have, and you want to solve it to be, bring you up a bit. That again is so the aim of this is not to find something new that nobody's done before. The scientists who look at your problem will do that, right? That's the only way I can get it funded, is innovative. So I'm counting on the scientists in the partner organisations to come up with innovative ways of solving your problems. Otherwise, I can't fund it. But you don't worry about that. You just come with a problem which is in scope and will help your productivity or competitiveness in some way. And if you can have some sort of estimate about how that would work, what sort of saving you would make if you could solve this problem, then you're probably in. Another way that it's different is in the R&D. So like I said before, most of our programs actually require that companies come to us to apply for a grant with some sort of R&D capability. That you've got an R&D lab in your company, or you've got a scientist, or you've got somebody who develops stuff, right? And that they can work in an innovative way. They've come up with a new something or other that you're going to make a market, and that's what we fund. In this, it's different. You don't have to have those people. You have to have somebody with a problem. Maybe it's the bloke on the production line who's responsible for throwing 5% of it away because it doesn't work. Right? I'm sure he'd love to have a help with this. So you don't. We will bring the R&D scientists to you, if you like. You need to do some work. You need to be part of the project. It's a collaboration. It's not a supplier. What's the word I'm looking for? It's not a relationship where you contract out the problem and they come back to you with a solution. Right? That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for you to do some work with these partner organisations, to prepare the samples, to show them what you do, to do some trials, to do all that sort of stuff, explain what you've done before to try and solve the problem. All these sorts of things, to work with the scientists, and it's been really good in previous rounds. I know we've had a lot of companies who said, "Oh, we've never worked with people, who could ask questions of us like this before." We learnt a lot about it. So it's a real collaboration. Otherwise, again, I can't fund it. Right? I have to fund collaborations, not subcontracts. So if you're prepared to put a bit of your time and effort into solving this problem, we will bring you some people who can help you make progress with that. So it's a bit different from that point of view. And I suppose one of the biggest differences when we first coined this program is that it's different because we bring the partner to you. Normally, when you apply to us and you say, "I want this much grant money to make this new thing, to develop this new idea," you say, "Oh, and by the way, we're going to work with this partner or this university or this other company or whatever," right? And you write a proposal as a collaborating set of companies, a consortium. In this one, you don't. You come as a single company with your problem. We don't tell anybody else about your problem because it's probably, if it's competitive or productivity related, then you probably don't want your competitors to know what problems you've got, right? So it's highly confidential, but we bring the partner to you. So you don't choose a partner. We'll tell you who they are, and then we'll talk later on. But that's just to introduce you to the sort of things that they do and the things they've done before on A4I, just to give you a flavour of the examples. But you do not choose the partner. If you come for an application with this and say, "This is my problem and I want to work with X partner," I don't want you to do that. If that partner can help you, and you know that and they know that, they'll find you anyway. Don't worry about that. But you do not choose your partner. The process chooses your partner. That's the lovely thing about it, because you may not know which partners can help. In fact, we've had problems in other rounds where more than one partner helped and worked on a project jointly together. You could have two, if you're big enough, and you could have two projects, one with each partner. But actually, it's much better if you work as a collaborative thing with two partners and a company, and you try different solutions to the problem, right? With different mechanisms, different processes, different resources and expertise. So all of that is possible, providing you bring a decent problem for them to solve. But you have to bring the problem. You don't bring the partner specification. So what am I talking about with these problems? It's not just buying a shed load more of what you already buy. I have a problem with that. I get the supermarket every week. But it's problems around measurement and analysis. Right? So that's a really broad thing, isn't it? You can measure all sorts of things. You can analyze all sorts of things. That's the broad description. We have to have as an innovation lead, when I run a competition, I have to have a scope statement that has a load of words about what I mean by scope. But it is something where you've got an adverse impact in business, like I said before, widgets failing, because of a process or a product variability, so something changes and you don't know what it is, where the latest analytical technologies or data analysis approaches that the partners could bring have the potential to work out not just what the problem is, but what the root cause is, and help you work on changes to your process or your problem or whatever it is. You know, actually, in the previous rounds, we found that the solutions are often not to do something that the company is already doing. Right? We had one, a lovely one, where they were doing a certain check on their suppliers' resources when they bought stuff in to make their product. They were checking it for something. And that check was good. They thought that was helping identify the ones that were wasted, but it wasn't. It was nothing. It was proved that there was nothing to do with it. So they've saved a shed load of money just by not doing that check anymore, because it cost them a lot of time and money to do that. So you never know what the outcome might be from this sort of project, and that's why some of these mini projects actually might be quite productive, even though they're quite short. So it might help you identify root cause, it might help you enhance the control measures that you put around your processes, it might help you do all sorts of things. So that's the sort of thing. And the pictures here are meant to show you the enormous breadth for which I include for measurement and analysis. So it could be chemical analysis and measurement. It could be physical analysis and measurement. Guess which one's which? I'm not doing it in the right order. It could be biological. It might be something at the cellular level in an organism that you use. You might make some food and you don't know, what the cells are like in that ingredient that you put in that causes it to go mouldy, right? Something like that. It's a measurement and analysis problem that can relate to the physics, the chemistry, the biology of that thing, of that process that goes on when you make that stuff. And it can also be, you see at the bottom there, the use of very high performance supercomputing. We have some of the fastest computers in the world in one of the partners involved in this program. And they have techniques for data analysis and data, big data stuff that most small companies in particular wouldn't probably have access to normally. And this is a great thing about A4I. It's not just about the compute thing, but these partners have access, as you'll see later on, have routine for them access to facilities that you probably couldn't dream of getting hold of as a small company, as a micro company, for example. And this program allows you access to all of that and the expertise to use it. So, so it's a really broad scope. I hope you can see that no matter what the underlying cause is, whether it's physics, chemistry, biology, or just looking at the data, we ought to be able to help you with this. So that's what I mean by a measurement, an analysis problem, and the underlying technologies and approaches. So it's much easier for an innovation lead like me to say what's out of scope, because until you write the proposal or the problem down, I can't really tell you whether it's in or out of scope. I can tell you what is definitely out of scope. If it's a problem that's solvable by a technique that's widely available, i.e. off the shelf, you can go to a supplier anywhere on the street and say, look, do some, do some gas chromatography on this sample and tell me what the results are. If that's all that's needed to solve your problem, you might not know that, right? But if that's all that's needed, it doesn't need the supercomputers, it doesn't need the expertise in any of the partners, then that will be out of scope. But we will try and give you feedback on that. So if you put a problem in, if you're sure that it can be done by gas chromatography and it's off the shelf, right? Don't bother putting it in. I don't want to waste your time, right? But seriously, I do want you to help me spend the money and apply to this with the problem. So if you're not sure if you've just got the problem and you're not sure whether it's off the shelf solvable, put it in. Because if the experts that look at it say, well, you could just do it with this, we'll give you that feedback, so you'll know the answer. For the price of putting your problem in, you'll get the answer about where to go to look for an answer. So I think that's a pretty good deal. So do take advantage of that. And the other bit, I always find it hard to describe this bit because if I talk about data analysis, right, I'm a computer scientist by background. My degree was computer sciences in those days when computer science was quite a new thing. I'm getting quite old now, but those of us in that business know that any algorithm, any computer software is an algorithm fundamentally, and it's doing some analysis of data. So I can't give you money and a grant to address any problem that's just developing a piece of software, all right? So if your problem is you're trying to develop, or you've got a product out there that identifies people's faces, maybe for a security thing application. And that's what it does. And your problem when you write it down is we want a better algorithm to recognize faces. That's not the sort of analysis problem that I can help you with, right? If in your business you've got a load of data about something and you haven't a clue where to look for patterns in it or to look for it or to start, that big data might, that scenario I had just now, then that's in scope, all right? I'm trying to define here something which is just the core algorithm that anybody would, in any piece of software. That's not in scope. We can't just fund any piece of software development, right? I think people mainly get this. But it's very hard to write it down in words so that you include everything you want to include and exclude everything you don't want to include. So talk to us about this, right? Talk to Nigel, talk to me afterwards. If you're unsure about your problem and whether the thing you've got in mind, and I know that many people have already started applying, right? This isn't because this is so late near the close date. I know that people have started applications, started writing down problem descriptions and things. I can see on the system if you've started applying already because it's been open for a little while. So if you're not sure about your problem and it's in this sort of area, then talk to us and we will try and help you work out whether it's worth doing. We don't want you to go to a lot of effort and then be out of scope. But I'm hoping that I can include quite a lot of stuff in that definition. If they're the only two out of scope things, right, it's mainstream technique that you can buy off the shelf, or it's a complete algorithm solution, then I think that's not too bad for exclusions, is it? So that's what's out of scope. So again, it's different because in our normal programs, you write a project proposal. That's what we ask you for, 10 questions, project proposal. We don't do that in A4I. Don't want that. In the first stage, all we want is your problem. And we don't want the solution. So even if you think you know how to solve it, don't bother. Right? Because you can have those discussions about what you think when you talk to a partner, if you talk to a partner. Right? What I want you to do is write down the problem. Don't waste time writing the solution. Write down as clear as you can all you know about your problem. We want to give these scientists the best chance of picking your problem because they can think of an innovative way of dealing with it. And the harder the problem, the better. Now, the partners will love me saying that, but actually, we have addressed some really tough problems in the previous rounds. We did one which hasn't been done in the world before, right? And there's a case study about that. It's to do with fingerprinting. We have done things that were not done before, and people have been trying for years to do it. We managed to do it through this program. So hard problems are okay, but don't worry about solutions at this stage. What I do require you to do is to estimate a value. And that value is not the amount of money you need to solve it, right, to work on the project. I already said that, it's not a normal problem. What I want you to estimate is what you will save, what it means to you as a company to address and solve this problem. So you might include cost of wastage, you might include amounts that you can get from being a higher spec and selling to more people. Please, when you talk about market revenues and related to your problem, don't talk about the market for what the whole thing of what we do, what we play in is this many billion, all right? It's what market you could open up as a company by solving this problem, all right? I'm not looking for the biggest value, right, necessarily. I want a realistic value. Because if I've got a choice between solving, one company, there is a limit of money in this, so if I end up with a problem of being able to solve one big problem or help 10 small companies, each with a smaller amount of benefit, then I have to make a choice there, and I'd rather help as many companies as I can, as well as the big problems. So that's why I'm asking about this, and I'm also asking about this because when government gives us this money to run these sort of programs, I go to them and say what the benefit is to the country, right? And the benefit of this is that I can say, actually, we're solving real bottom line amounts here, right? A company is going to save this much money by doing it. It's much more finger in the air when you say we're going to develop a new project and we're going to take a grant of this much money, and in 5 years' time we might be successful with it. This is going to affect people's bottom lines immediately because you will stop wasting 5%, you will stop throwing things away, you will stop doing processes that are unnecessary, hopefully. You will do all these things that save you money. And I want you to tot all those up, roughly, back of an envelope type thing, and give me an estimate, your best estimate of what that would be. So write down your problem, write down your estimate about the value, and that's really all you have to do by Thursday lunchtime. All right, really simple. So problem statement. Now, describe by a short video. We are giving you the chance still to make a short video. Now, that doesn't mean you go out to a production company and say, look, we've got to make this video, how can you help us? It means that you get your iPhone out or something and you do a bit of videoing of the production line where it's all going wrong and the output, the bit of the widget that you make that breaks or something like that. You show the cracks in the thing, you show the faults in it, you show where it's gone discoloured, you show whatever you can in order to give the scientists the best view of the problem, right? I want to put these things in front of scientists so they can say, I don't know what's going on there, it's gone that colour. Right? Very hard to write that down in words, right? Much easier to just show people. That's why we don't put a video as the input to this program because we want to make it hard for people. We're actually trying to make it easier for you to describe your problems. And a picture paints 1,000 words, a video does even more. So please do try and make a quick video. It can only be up to 3 minutes long anyway. If you really can't, I won't insist this time because you've only got 2.5 days before the close, and I understand that. But it doesn't take long to whip your iPhone out and press the button to make a video. Please give it a bit of thought about what's in the in the lens before you edit it. But it really doesn't take a lot of effort and a lot of time to do that. So if you can do a video, I urge you to do so because it will make your chances better because it will give scientists a better view of your problem, hopefully. So you can describe your problem by a short video. Like I said, the problem must not be solvable by standard off-the-shelf methods. If you know that, don't bother. If you don't know that, try anyway. And we also have a little question there. There's only 4 questions in this. One is what's the problem? One is what's the value of solving it, which I've just covered. One is what you've tried before, right? And one is the link to your video. So it's really not a difficult set of questions by noon on Thursday. I keep mentioning that, don't I? But there we are. So you must state in the third question or maybe it's the second question, what you have tried before. Again, to help the scientists, right? They want to know if you've tried heating it up a bit more and that didn't help, because that will help them understand the root cause, perhaps. All right? It might not, but it might. So anything that you can do to help them with, you tried this and it didn't work. They may say, well, yeah, it wouldn't have worked this because the problem's over here. But it doesn't matter. At least you've tried to give them as much information as you can about your problem. So there's an opportunity to say, look, we've got this problem. We've tried this before. Didn't really work, or maybe it improved it a bit but not enough, or whatever. You can wax lyrical about there. You've got 300 words to play with for each question. You can say what you tried before. In the value statement, like I said, I just want to emphasize this again because I know Nigel knows that in the first round of this we had a lot of people just writing down how much money they wanted to solve the problem, and that's not what this is about, right? The value statement is your best estimate of the value of solving the problem to your business. What will it save your business's bottom line if you're able to stop having this problem? And I want you to put a figure in. I know that always seems difficult. Don't just waffle on about bigger this and smaller that and all the rest of it. Try to put some figures on it. It doesn't matter if it's not totally accurate. I don't expect it to be totally accurate. We're not, we are realistic at Innovate UK. I'm realistic anyway when I look at these. And we've seen a lot of these before, so now we're doing the third round. This is nothing new for us, so we're used to these. And it should be realistic for your company. So if your turnover, we do look at companies when you apply. We do make sure you're really registered, and Jonathan does it. We'll look at your company's house and make sure you're a real company, because we do get people who pretend to be companies sometimes and try and get government money. We don't give it to them. But we will look at the size of the company, what you've filed as the last turnover or whatever. And if your turnover is sort of 50,000 a year, or your profits are 50,000 a year, and you say solving this problem is going to make $100 trillion worth of difference, just to try and get a big number in there, I think we might find that a bit hard to believe. So we are looking for realism with this. The biggest number doesn't win. Right? It's not about winning, it's about me juggling, it's about me going back to government and saying, like I said before, I'm being totally open with you here, it's about me going back to government and saying, Minister, we took some of your money in your budget to run this programme, and I can tell you that what we did in the programme actually was a good estimate of what the company said they would save at the beginning. And that's the story I want to give them. Right? I don't want to tell them about your problems and solutions, but I do want to give government a feel for how much this programme is doing for British business. And I can only do that with your help with some good figures. So please do try hard with that. So that's what you've got to do. Now, video submission. Now, I always give an example of, and the guys at the back are going to try and make this video play online as well, so in the live stream. So I just want to say a little bit about it. So I don't expect production quality. I don't expect you to go and spend a lot of money or very much money at all on producing this video. It has to show the essentials that I've talked about in terms of your problem. It has to try and explain what the outcomes or the problems are with what you're submitting. This is an example of a video, not for A4I, because I haven't asked anybody whether I've got permission to show their videos for A4I. I have asked this guy. And this was for a Launchpad program. Those of you who remember Technology Strategy Board going back a bit will know that we had a Launchpad program which allowed people to apply for some money to set up a new product and stuff, but in a specific place. And so they had to say where they wanted to be, why they wanted to be there, what the business model would be, what the product or service would be that they had, and why we should give them the money, basically, right? And so I want to show you this example of a video, and then I'll talk to you about it afterwards, about what he didn't bother to do, but he did get the money.
My name's Richard Heathcote, and I'm one of the co-founders of MyUBan, a social language learning tool that we believe will replace the dictionary as the go-to tool for language learners. We're trying to address two problems. The first is that there's a distinct lack of anything online that makes language learning truly relevant to each individual learner. And the second is that traditional language partnerships are limited. I guess the question is, why would you wait 4 or 5 days to ask 10 questions of one person when you could turn to 100 people now online and get an answer that's far more relevant to your individual needs? So, we're developing a fully gamified social site. It's a kind of question and answer game where users can log on and build themselves a network of online language partners and get prompt and relevant answers from native speakers. Users then compete to provide the most comprehensive answers in the shortest space of time in order to unlock higher levels of the site and benefit from better quality language partners. The site works on a freemium basis, which means that we give away 25 free questions to each user per month, and then they can choose to upgrade their account should they exceed that. We're also developing a voucher system which should generate B2B income, and we also hope to charge for downloads of a mobile client which we want to develop. We'd really like to base the company in the Tech City area of London because we feel that we can stand to benefit from the creative environment there, but also to learn a lot from the individuals and the companies that are there doing it. We also feel that being at the epicenter of the industry can only help to foster a culture of innovation and can only benefit the company. If we were to secure investment, we would look to spend it on scaling the development team and taking the product to market, and also then to protect the IP both here in Britain and abroad. We are MyUBan. Thank you.
Okay, so you can see what happened there. He answered all the questions that we'd given him. Obviously, he didn't show problem because it's not an A4I video, it's a Launchpad video. But he answered all the questions about what he was going to use the money for, specifically what the business model was behind it, what the product was that he was doing, what the service offering was, how people would benefit from it. He answered all the questions. It wasn't word perfect. He stuttered a few times. He didn't put a suit and tie on, right? He didn't hire a studio. He didn't need to do any of those things. And that's what the point I'm trying to get over to you. You know, a quick thing on an iPhone, either sitting on a sofa describing your problem, but actually much better in the factory if you've got one, or holding up a sample and showing a sample of what goes wrong. Right? This is the opportunity you have with the video in A4I to tell the scientists about the problem. So please use that if you can. I won't disqualify you this time. It's the only time, the other 2 rounds you had to do a video. I won't disqualify you this time if you really can't do it in the time. But if you don't, you've really got to do a very good description of the problem in the answering one of the 4 questions, because we've got to paint a decent picture of it for these scientists to look at, and they only have a certain time to look at these things. So, so try to help us to help you. But if you really can't do one, I'd rather have your problem than not have it at all. But just in case we can help. So that's A4I. As a program. That's what it's about, that's why it's different, that's how it's different, that's how it runs, that's how the first stage happens. You only need a problem, you only have to answer the 4 questions on what the problem is, what you've tried before, what value it has to the company if you can solve it, and what the link to your video is. Right? We'll talk a bit about how you do that later. So that's That's how you apply. That's all you've got to do by noon on Thursday. You haven't got to create an idea or anything. If it's not a problem you've already got that you already understand, then it's probably not the right problem for A4I, to be honest. Right? We're looking to solve problems. We don't want you to go away and think of a problem. Right? You should have a problem if it's suitable for this. So that's why I wouldn't dream of, if it was a normal program, I wouldn't dream of doing this briefing two and a half days before the close. Right? I'm doing this because I think you can still give me good problems. Otherwise, I wouldn't worry about it. So that's A4I as a general thing. I just want to say a little bit now about, before I hand on to others, about round 3, mini projects, and what it means this year, how we've changed it, because some of you might have seen this before and you'll be confused with other rounds otherwise. So Jonathan's going to reiterate some of this, but and we thought 2 Jonathans presenting from Innovate was nice and confusing. At least you don't have to put up with me for all of it. So only a business alone can apply. I say alone because we don't want you to have partners. We choose the partners, remember. No research base in the call, no universities, no RTOs, that sort of thing. Registered business in, if you're, we get these grey lines. If you're a charity but you're registered as a business as well in Companies House and you do active things that generate profits and things like that as well as your charity work, then fine. But you can't have charitable status and be a business. You've got to be a charity operating as a business for this purpose or not. Business can be any size, but the amount we can help you with the project subsequently changes according to state aid rules, according to what size you are. We can do the most to help smallest companies. Businesses must carry out their work on the problem in the UK, so it's no good you saying, well, my German lab's going to work with one of the partners, or my Japanese lab, or whatever. Businesses obviously must be prepared to work with at least one of the partners that we provide. All right, you can't say, no, I don't like working with them. You won't get funded. So, but don't let that stop putting you a problem in, because you might get a partner come to you you didn't realise. So that's broad eligibility. I say Jonathan will say more. Just a few things about this particular round again. So this is about mini projects. These are 3-month maximum projects between January and March. So you need to be able to work between January and March on the problem. They are short, they are mini, they are feasibility-like probably, they are pathfinder, whatever you want to call them. They are something that allows you to get a handle on the problem at least. As I said before, when we funded the longer projects in previous rounds of A4I, we found that a lot of the value was in the beginning when the scientists and you get together about the problem and work out what really needs to be done. So you can make a feasibility type project up with the partner once they've chosen you in stage 2. And what I am allowing this time, which I've never done before, is in previous rounds of A4I, you couldn't apply to the second round with the same problem as you did in the first round. If and when I run a subsequent round to this, round 4, I will let people who are successful in this round with a mini project do a longer project to continue solving the problem in the next round. And you won't have to jump through the first stage hoops again. All right, so there's an incentive. So possibly with follow-up, that's what I mean by that. You may be able to apply to a longer thing. So if you think, well, 3 months isn't going to be long enough, we can do something productive in 3 months with a bit of money behind you and some expertise. So don't let that put you off. And if you need some more help after that and you can't do it any other way and we run a 4th round, you'll get help with getting into that. Again, never done that before. The other thing I'm allowing this time, which I have never allowed before, is that round 3 scope can include problems of new products and services about to be launched. By that I mean, if your problem doesn't relate to an existing process, product or service offering, like we've said before, but now, this isn't about inventing a completely new product and service, but if you've got something in mind that you're dying to get out there, but there's one problem, one nutty, sticky problem that's sort of measurement and analysis related in the ways that I've described, that's stopping you from getting that out to market, then you're in scope this time, and you wouldn't be before. So I'm allowing that this time. I want to help people who have got this knotty problem, as I say, and they can't, that's the one thing that's stopping them from launching something new. So you can do that this time. This time, both applications, I don't think before we've ever had both stages of A4I in any of the rounds through IFS. So we've got our new innovation, it's not really new anymore, is it, John? We've been running for ages now. Online innovation funding system, so IFS, we love it because it makes it so much easier for everybody. No more Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and things like that. You do it all online. You can come back to it when you like and this sort of thing. It tells you how far you've got. Jonathan will explain all that in a minute. But it's we're using that for stage 1 and stage 2 this time, and so that should oil the wheels and make things easier. There will be grant funding from Innovate UK. We didn't give grant funding from Innovate UK in round 2. We did in round 1. Partners were funded in round 2, but we didn't give companies money last time. We learned from that. We learned from that a different way. We had just as many projects actually in round 2 as we had in round 1, which people told me it wouldn't happen, but I told them it would. And they told me this time I couldn't run it in 3 months, and we will, with Jonathan's help. I have to say, actually, just on an aside, this is a tremendous effort, not just, well, what I do is immaterial, but from the partners and from the KTN, this is a fantastic effort to get this off the ground, so you have them to thank that we're doing this at all. But we will be offering grant funding for the projects that come from this in stage 2 this time, and there will be a de minimis option up to 50k for eligible companies, and it's for you to say whether you're eligible or not. There are rules about de minimis. If you're not familiar with the de minimis scheme, I'm sure Jonathan can point you to the right URL on the EU website or whatever that says how many thousands of euros you can have had from public money over the last 3 years in order to be eligible. You have to be eligible. You have to decide that you're eligible, and you have to face the consequences if you apply and you're not. And that is quite serious. But if you can, then de minimis is quite an attractive option because it's 100% funded. And there are also matched funding options for projects where you're not eligible for de minimis, or you want to do more than 50k projects. So we're trying to make this as flexible as possible. The match funding will be on the normal state aid rules, depending on large, medium and small size companies. The amount that we give you and the amount you have to match. And funding from the partners will have funding for their work on it, subject to, again, a match funding business, and we'll talk more about that later for people who get that far. Yes, madam. Match funding means the grant we give a business, the company, for their eligible costs, we pay a certain percentage of that cost, and you have to match the rest of it up to 100%. So if you're a small company, right, your eligible project cost that you're claiming to do the project work is 100k, then we would only give you 70k of that. You'd have to put the effort in for the other 30k. That's our normal scheme. I'm not messing with that. That's the only thing I'm not messing with A4I, with this competition program. So that's that. And people always ask about IP, so I've added it to the slide this time. Nigel's nodding because he normally gets the question afterwards. The intention is always with this scheme that IP resides with businesses, right? These are your problems with your IP, with your processes and stuff. The intention is not for the partners to make money from your IP. It will be bound by a collaboration agreement, like all our collaborative projects, and I don't think it's happened yet in the 2 rounds so far. It might have happened once, but there's only one sort of area where the partner might want to take some IP, and that wouldn't be related to your specific use of the stuff. It would be if we come up with a groundbreaking new national measurement procedure that could benefit the whole country, right? We can't just give that away. It's got to be available to the partners to help other people with. So if there was a new way of measuring mass or something, then we, it wouldn't be just for you. It would be it's a similar thing to that. So the analogy is that the intention is not to take IP from companies. This is to help companies with productivity and competitiveness problems. So that's round 3. We opened it on the 22nd of August. We were briefing. Those of you who were smart and found out that we were briefing about it. I had all sorts of constraints about what I could do. But anyway, we opened it on the 22nd of August. This briefing event is today, and you have until Thursday at noon, the 6th of September, to get your problems in. That's all you've got to do, right? Problems in, 4 questions, what you've done before, value, URL for the video, bit of video on your iPhone, Bob's your uncle. We will try and be as quick as, because we're asking you to do things in quick time. I'm asking Jonathan and his team at Swindon to do things in double quick time as well, because we haven't got a lot of time for this. So by the 13th of September, you will get a notification of whether you're successful at first stage or not. That's pretty quick for us, right? We don't normally turn things around quite as from open to notification that quickly. People are working their socks off for this, and I'm very appreciative. Nigel will then work his magic. He connects people, and that's the KTN's job, and he will connect as many companies with as many partners that are interested in these problems as possible, confidentially, within a very short space of time. That's not an easy job. He works all weekends and nights to do it, and I'm very appreciative of that as well. And so you can expect invites to sessions with companies from the 17th of September onwards, and likely to have dating sessions actually with companies between the 20th and the 24th. So if your company is going on holiday and isn't going to be available, anybody who knows about these problems in those periods, don't bother applying, because we can't fit you in. We can't change that, right? We are in a deadline, in a process that is running, including today's briefing. I could not do this any other day because of the way things work, and we can't do those things any other day either. So try and help Nigel. He'll say more about that, I think, in a moment later. But he will try and help you to organise those for the benefit of you and for the benefit of the partners and himself. So we'll do what we can to accommodate, but we don't have a lot of flexibility on that. And then there is a stage 2 deadline of the 10th of October at noon. That's the time by which you have to, with your partner, have agreed the project that you want to do in the 3 months to address the problem, and have written it down and submitted it on IFS again. But you'll only be up against the other people that are successful at stage 1. All right? You've got to be successful at stage 1 to enter stage 2. You cannot just forget this stage by noon on Thursday and then apply for stage 2. It doesn't work like that. No way. And then the earliest you can start should be January. If we can do anything with easy ones that look good and everybody's got their documents together and stuff by before Christmas, then I'll see what I can do. But you've got to spend the money in 3 months. That's why I've got 3-month length projects. I can't do anything about that, but I thought it's better that you have 3 months to spend some money than no money at all. So January to March is what we're looking at. So that's the timeline. So now I'm going to have a rest. Jonathan Dorrian is going to come up and tell you about the mechanics of what you need to do by Thursday to get your problem in.
Hello everyone. I'm the second half of the Jonathan and Jonathan duo. So I work in the portfolio management team within Innovate UK. So I manage the process, make sure that all your applications get sent for assessment and so on and so forth. So on the screen is about what I'm going to go through today. So the eligibility criteria for all the problems, the application process, and how you submit your application, and then the assessment period, and then at the end we'll have a bit of a Q&A. So the eligibility criteria. So you must be a UK-based business, and you must carry out the project in the UK and intend to exploit the results in the UK. Applicants must be a single company with no partners. However, this does not rule out companies that are part of a larger you can read it.
It is a difficult sentence. I tried it.
I didn't put that sentence in. He did. Submissions that were ineligible or out of scope in previous rounds of AFA are still unlikely to be in scope for this round. So submissions of previous problems are not advised. Any one business can apply up to 3 times to this round for the analysis for Innovators competition. Each application must focus on a different problem. If you have an outstanding final claim with Innovate UK and an independent accountant report on any live Innovate UK project, you will not be eligible to apply for grant funding in this competition. If you applied to a previous competition as the lead or sole company and were awarded funding by Innovate UK but did not make a substantial effort to exploit that award, we will award no more funding to you. So on the screen is the timeline. So the competition opened on the 22nd of August. Today is the 3rd. The submission deadline is on the 6th of September, and this is at noon. And this is a hard deadline. So if you go to submit at 12:01, you won't be able to submit. So once it hits 12, the competition closes. So you need to make sure that you get your application within good time with that deadline. And if you're having any problems with submitting your application, you need to make sure that you contact us in good time. So if you have any problems, contact us now, basically. And you'll be informed on the 13th of September. So I'll run through about how to apply using Innovation Funding Service. So once you go to our webpage, you'll be able to search for this competition. So just to search for analysis, and it'll come up, and you'll be able to see the eligibility criteria that we've run through, the scope, the dates, and there'll be also a wider how to apply guide there as well. And then in the supporting information, there's a lot of links that link to the KTN and all the guidelines that we use in making these competitions. So in making your application, you will have to create an account. So you just go to our landing page and then click create an account, and you can use Company's House to fill in your details if you're registered there. If not, you can manually enter them. Then you can also invite partners, people from your organisation to contribute to your application. So you can invite them there, and they'll be able to send an email from IFS to fill in the application form, which I'll run through in a sec. Once you sign up and create an account with IFS, you'll be signing up to the T's and C's of receiving a grant or participating with Innovate UK. So just be mindful to read them if you want. So for every question, you'll see this on the screen. You'll be able to assign it to either you or anyone else who you've invited to participate in the problem. You'll be able to format, you'll be able to spell check it, and there's guidance of what I should include in this section. So everything that you need to be able to complete this application is on the portal when you go to complete it. So it's very intuitive and very easy to use. Ignore this slide. It says that there are 3 sections. There are actually only 2. So there's project details and application questions only for the first stage. So you don't need to fill in any finance document for the first stage. So I'll now run through the application form. So the first section, you have to fill in the application details. So that includes the title, timescales, the research category, the innovation area, and whether it's a resubmission or not. For the purposes of this round and for the first stage, the research category and the innovation area doesn't actually matter all that much. So, pick whatever you fits best for you, and whatever you make what you like the best. So it doesn't really matter. You won't be judged on this. Then you'll be able to fill in a company summary. So a short summary of your company and why the problem is important to you. Then you'll be able to fill in a section with the problem scope. So how does your problem align with the scope of this competition? And if your project is not in scope, it will not be eligible for funding. And this is the section that we'll be using to judge whether it will go forward to the second stage. So I'll now run through the application form. It's a very short application form, as Jonathan said. So there's only 4 questions. So the first question is the problem. Second question, previous attempts to solve the problem. Question 3, value to your business of solving the problem. And question 4, again, is the link and password to access your video. So the details of the first question. So what is the problem or analysis problem that you need to solve? So you should include here what the core of the problem is, what your major challenges are in understanding this problem, and any important aspects of your problem that you were unable to show in the video submission if you are submitting one. So the second question, what methods or technique have you previously tried to solve the problem? So here you should describe or explain what you did to understand or address the problem, and what success or otherwise have you had when trying to address the problem. Question 3, what difference will it make to your business if you can solve this problem? So you should describe or explain what you estimate the total value of the benefit to be in pounds if the problem is solved, how you arrived at this estimate, what components contribute to the benefit estimate in terms of productivity and competitiveness gains, such as savings in waste, higher quality products or services, or increased sales or market share. We want to be able to balance helping the most businesses with making the most impact with the money available. Assessors are looking for the realistic values here, not necessarily the biggest numbers, as Jonathan said. What does the market you are targeting look like? So if you're uploading, that's not right. So this is it's the link and password to access your video. So ignore that purple box. So if you're uploading a video to submit your application, please carefully paste in the URL of the Vimeo video you have made to describe or show your problem. Carefully type the password you require to access the video, specifying case-sensitive characters accurately. Your video can be up to 3 minutes long, must be uploaded to Vimeo before the problem submission closes on the deadline. So again, the 6th of September at noon. Should ideally be a one password protected page, must be in one of the formats permitted by Vimeo. Need not to be a high quality costly production, but must help the expert assessors see what they can offer a solution to your problem. We will consider together with the answer you give to question 1. So if there are any things you want to keep confidential, instead of include them in your answer, include them here. So again, more about the video. So make sure your video is accessible and playable before you complete your submission. If it is not, then it will not be issued in the assessment of your application. If you are not uploading a video, please type NA in this field and ensure that your answers to question 1 to 3 are fully explain the problem you're trying to solve. We strongly recommend that you do include a video with your application. You can show the actual problem or the impacts of it much more clearly to assessors in the video than in words. So I'll now run through the assessment process. So after the submission deadline, your application and video will be assessed as follows. Innovate UK, i.e. me, will check your organisation's eligibility. Innovate UK will assess whether your application is a measurement or analysis problem, so whether it's in scope or not, and that will be done by Jonathan. An independent panel of experts will assess whether the problem is solvable using easily available off-the-shelf methods and techniques, so again, that will be out of scope, or whether whether it requires cutting-edge scientific expertise and facilities, i.e. in scope. Expert scientists from the 4 A4I partners funding organisations will assess whether they have a potential approach to solving your problem. So you will receive feedback whether you're successful or not. So once the assessment is complete, you will receive feedback from Innovate UK and our partner organisations. This feedback should be used to submit your application into the second stage if you're successful, and hopefully it'll be constructive if you are unsuccessful as well. And it will be sent out to the lead applicant's email inbox. So if you have any questions between now and Thursday, these are the numbers you need to ring in the email inbox. So all these queries will be directed to me, and I'll be able to answer them as soon as possible. And you can also contact Nigel, who will be able to help. So now I'm going to throw it open to you and see if you've got any questions for me on the application process. You need to wait. If you've got a question, just put your hand up and someone with a mic will come round, just so everyone online can hear.
I just wanted to know what's the smallest possible, an absolute startup which is literally just been registered in the last few weeks, can it still qualify for this, or does it have to have a business with, with a certain amount of...
Yeah, no, that should be fine, yeah. There's no limit.
It's a spin out from a university, so you mentioned quite clearly that, you don't want there to be involvement from the university. So it doesn't matter the fact that the company itself came from a university, even though it's not necessarily directly
If it's a business, it's fine. If
Okay,
it comes from a
fine.
university, but it's still a business, it's fine.
Okay, so...
So my question is sort of along the lines of this gentleman's question, and that is, because you said, well, if you go to a company's house and you look at the book, the corporate accounts, and you're saying, well, the value is large, then it won't be realistic. But what if a company's been in R&D for 4 years, and actually it's a unicorn, and it's just starting out? So, the revenues don't necessarily reflect the value of the business. But actually, if you've already got, say, products with SaaS subscriptions, and there's a problem that you're trying to solve, it might actually add millions to the value of the product. So it may not be reflected. It's quite important that people realise that actually, if you're an R&D business that's got deep IP, then actually the impact of solving a particular problem could be very, very large, even though it's not reflected.
I understand what you're saying. We have applications like that before. It's not a problem. I'm not using the values that you give as a gateway. What I'm using them for is the reasons I said earlier about how much we can feedback to government and how we can balance the overall set of things that we do in the second stage. So, all we want to make sure is that somebody is not saying, actually, they're an academic in a university. Coming back to your point, they're an academic in a university. They haven't actually formed a company yet. They've got an aspiration to form a company. They're still a prof employed by the university. There's no company employment there whatsoever. They don't exist as a company element. They can't apply. They're not they're not a company. If they're a unicorn, you don't have to have a financial history in this thing to get through the first stage of this program. We're not trying to exclude people because they don't have long financial histories of profit making and all the rest of it. That won't be a problem, I assure you. But thanks for raising it because it's important people understand, as you say.
Hi, my name is Jörg Feist from Sensor Coating Systems. Our technology consists of 3 different technology areas, and I could immediately think about 2 technology areas which we could actually put forward for problem solving. Would you like to see 2 independent applications for this, or would you like to see one application and,
okay, we'll do a double
and then
act
combine
here.
these 2 technology problems in one?
I think you have to make a sorry, I'm in front of the mic. I think you have to make a judgment here about, and you can talk to it's best if you talk to people like Nigel about the actual application, because I'm as a part of the process, as you see, so I have to be slightly independent to but the way I would look at it is, if you think that there's one core problem that you need to solve and it spans a couple of technology areas, then do one application for that problem. It's problem focused, not technology focused, right? If there are 2 different problems that you think you've got across 2 different technology areas, put 2 applications in, right? Write 2 different problems down. We said you can have up to 3 problems per company in the brief. So don't be afraid that you're running out of problems. You've got to choose this one or that one. If you've got 2 problems that fit this program, we can look at both of them. You may not get funded for both in the full course of time. We might not get partners that can help you with both. But for goodness sake, put the problems in, because otherwise we can't start the process. Okay, so yeah, up to 3 problems, and if there's something distinct about them, then I would put them in as separate ones. Okay, so we do this as double act Q&A, because although it's Q&A about the application process that Jonathan D went through, we can take other questions sort of at the end. But if you want to throw them in now, I can do scope and stuff like that one. I think we've got one on the web, haven't we? 3 on the web. Let's take that lady there. Have you got the mic? And
Okay.
then
Thank you. My name is Tracy Nevitt. I just wonder, with respect to savings, of course there's savings to the company, but do we also include in those savings savings to healthcare, for example, to the NHS, as a consequence of bringing the product?
Yeah, I understand. You can mention that, but it's not really. I don't want you to add that to your numerical estimate that I'm asking for, right? It's good to know that you think you're helping that aspect of it. But what I'm interested in here, when I go back to government, they may be interested in that aspect of it. But what I'm trying to do is get a figure that I can say we help this many companies by this amount. And I haven't helped you by that amount. I've helped the NHS. So by all means mention it in that question if you've got words left, but primarily focus on the costs that you will save by solving the problem. You want to take them online first, and then we'll get the mic to the 2 in the room.
So,
Simon.
it's sort of a 4-part question from one person.
Right.
But it's all linked, I promise. Nigel.
Right.
So the person's called Mebs Serve, and their first question was like, can a distributor apply? And I was like, well, no, it has to be the company that's got the problem. They clarified, and came up with...
You can't apply with somebody else's problem. Yeah, I think that's the way to
Yep.
put it. Yeah. And get the money.
So they then said,
Not that tough.
well, we resell liquid handling products for a manufacturer
Right.
who are great in terms of design but not application. We're great at finding new opportunities but need groups to help us with the analysis. Then the kicker, and the manufacturer's not in the UK.
Ooh. Difficult for me to help non-UK manufacturing with this program because the taxpayers' money that I'm using is from UK taxpayers. That's as honest as I can be. I think I would struggle to put that through in the fullness of time.
That was my suggestion.
Unless there's a reason why it could be done in the UK as well. But if that's really the nub of it, then thank you for your honesty, the question asker, because I don't want to waste your time with it.
And then the other bit was, I think, about an application is, could use the program to develop novel capabilities which can be turned into application notes, and within the scope, create workshops with the lead organisations.
I don't think that's the purpose of the program, to be frank. I think that's a different type of problem. It's probably something the KTN could help with, actually, with a workshop or something. It's right down the KTN throat, but I don't think it's something I can help with A4I certainly this round. I don't think we've got the time to organise that, to be honest. Okay, we've got 2 more in the room, so lady on the left and then the man in the centre.
Hi,
That's
Hello.
all right, it's for the online people. We're not hearing it through that. No, use it.
Oh,
It's so the people online can hear, not for I can hear you direct.
Right, okay. Hi. So the value of solving the problem, so let's say it's £50,000 de minimis as a
Right.
business we receive. And then if we sort of increase our potential revenue to 300,000, then that's what you're looking at, are you? That's the value of...
Yeah, forget the amount of money you're going to get on to work on the problem with the partners in the projects, whether it's 50k or whatever.
Yeah.
When you put the problem in by Thursday lunchtime, what I want is that difference it will make to the company. So if you think by solving the problem, your revenues will go up by 300,000, then you state that.
Yeah.
And if you think that there are other reasons why, other money you can save because the problems are usually about the way you're doing something, right? Because like I gave the example before, it wasn't, it was a bit hidden, but the example of somebody doing something when they make their stuff and they didn't need to do that check really saves them a lot of time and money. And you couldn't know that you didn't need to do that check without understanding the science of what's going on when you do the check, right? You just do it because you think it's good.
Yeah.
You've always done it that way, sort of thing. So that sort of saving in time and cost to you as a company to deliver your service, I think that you can probably add on, I wouldn't expect to see just a total and then one reason for that total. I would expect to see A plus B plus C plus D with a total, and A is because you can sell more, B is because your revenues will go up as a result of that, C is because you've saved some waste, and D is because you're doing something a bit quicker than you could do it before because you don't have to do something, right?
Okay.
That sort of thing. So make a construction, show me the recipe, try and think, it's not an exam question in the sense that you haven't got to get it right, but you have got to try and give us some idea of what the value to the company is of solving this. Because if it's peanut value, right, and it's just interesting for you to solve, it's a different type of program for that.
So for the what you've done before question, use cases are acceptable, are they? Or who have you approached as a business? What exactly, how much information in terms of without confidentiality, breaches?
Yeah, you don't have to say who you've done it with before. I mean, if it helps, because there's only one, if you work with the atomic energy thing and they're the only people in the UK who could possibly do that, then it's obvious. But if you don't have to say what suppliers you've been to do some I don't know, FTIR on it or something, and got the results and didn't understand the results, or the results didn't help you solve the problem or whatever. It's just the types of approaches you've taken really with the problem. We tried heating the widgets up more and it didn't help. And they still cracked. Same number still cracked. Or we tried, I don't know, measuring the force that we extrude this bit of steel by, and it still broke at the wrong point or something. Just basics. Tell me the real stuff. Don't make a story up with these things. I want you to use the question to just give our scientists as much information as you can about what you tried, because you may give something about the problem. Some people are very good at explaining their problems, to be frank. Some people are not very good at explaining their problems, but they have a good go. Right? So the people who aren't very good at explaining their problem, if you give us information in this other question about, well, we tried this and it didn't work, or we tried this and it worked a bit but not enough, then that gives the scientists more information about the problem you were trying to solve without you saying it. Right? So anything you can do to help us, right?
All right, thank you.
Just being honest. Yep. And the gent in the centre there, I think we'll press on then. There is another chance for questions at the end.
So hi, this is Jamie from AdSnap. So I'm developing a mobile application at the moment for which one of the key features will be providing a dashboard back to our customers with huge data mining of the data points that we're collecting.
Right.
And the data mining is the kind of challenge that we've got. However, the challenge is going to exist probably in 3 or 4 months' time, so it doesn't actually exist just yet, but I know that will be a challenge. So it's a future problem, not currently experiencing right now in this very moment. Is that still eligible for this program? And it will be a problem in January when it starts.
Right. I think you have to ask yourself, do you know enough about the characteristic of the problem now in order to write it down enough that some people, big data scientists, might be able to get a handle on whether they can do something with it, right? Because if it's so vague, they won't be able to. There's big data problems and big data problems. So if you can explain it enough, I think it's worth having a go. I think from the sound of it, you're in the category which is not, which I'm allowing this time for the first time, which is it's not an existing product or service or whatever, but it's something that would enable you to do this new thing. That's fine, because I'm allowing this time. You wouldn't have got through the last 2 rounds. And you might not get through the next 3 rounds. I might take that eligibility out again next time. This is a one-time offer, perhaps, for things that are not existing problems. So I don't think you've said anything. I mean, it's difficult to talk about individual cases. You can always talk to Nigel over the lunch break or whatever. Yeah. I don't think you've said anything that would alarm me about the scope at the moment, but I haven't heard a lot about it, so talk to Nigel over lunch. I don't think you're out of scope, though. I don't think you're ineligible from what you've said.
Okay. I'll chat to Nigel, thank you.
One more online? Yeah, okay. Simon. And then we'll press on.
So, this one is a clarification on match funding.
Right.
So, as written, is there the 3% cash match funding and opportunity to support the rest with in-kind match funding, i.e. materials, equipment, etc.?
Right. So I think that person's remembering round 2. So in round 2 there was a cash element to some of the partners in order that we could get around the state aid rules, because the partners are being funded by government. We're funding the companies by government. You can't be 100% funded by government for a particular project, essentially, is what it's about. So we had to make contributions to partners from companies in order that circle was broken. There is an element of some of your grant potentially going to the partner in this round. It's not a cash contribution in the same way as it was in round 2. It's more like round 1, actually. Round 1 of A4I, we did this. And essentially, you will need to make a contribution of the same matched funding percentage to the partner from the grant that you get as a company in order that you're not 100% fully funded for your project work. But we'll say much more about that for stage 2. At the moment, there is no funding in stage 1, right? What you get is free consultancy with these world-class scientists about your problem. That is the prize for winning on Thursday noon, right? The bigger prize after that is to get a grant to do a project to work on the thing with those scientists. And before you get to the point of putting your your proposal in of that project, you will have the full financial details of what it costs and what you pay and what you don't pay and what you get as a grant and what the partners' costs are and everything else. Because we don't know what those are at the moment, right? We can't do everybody's individual back of the envelope calculation today. So we have to wait until stage 2, where there is a proposal for a project, before we can say what the arrangements are. Because if you go down de minimis, it's different. If you go down the match funding route, it's different. If you're a small company, it's different. If you're a large company, it's different. If you're multinational, it's different. So in 5 minutes, I can't answer that. Lady's got another question because of that.
No, I just wondered if you can apply 3 times. Can you get 3 sets of funding, or you can only get 1?
If you've got 3 different problems and each of them is regarded as different by the signer, then you can put 3 proposals of projects together, and you have the capacity in the company to resource those projects, because I won't give you some money for a grant for a project if you've only got a man and a dog and you can only work on one thing at a time, and you're asking to work on 3 projects and you can't get it done by March. So all those sort of logistics come into operation. We do ask you whether have you got the capacity to do this. And like our other schemes, actually, where you're eligible to do multiple things before, we always check, are we giving you a grant to do something you can't do because you haven't got the resources? And a company over there scored the same and they don't get funding because you got it, sort of thing. It's not fair. So providing you've got the resource, you've got the capacity to do it, and the partners have got the capacity as well, because if it needs the same people and the same equipment and the same facilities, then there might be so there's an awful lot of complexity at Nigel's middle stage, if you like, where he tries to work out which partners can work with you, and what resources they've got, and with the partner scientists themselves about what resources they've got, because if they're tied up, they can't give you those resources between January and March, and we can't fly. But there's all sorts of reasons why stage 2 can't go ahead. But I don't want you to focus on that at the moment. you're absolutely right. If you've got 3 different things, you could be funded in theory for 3 different projects with 3 different resources.
Thank you very much.
Good. Right, I think we're there. Thanks to Jonathan for his run through the process. He's so familiar with with IFS, whereas I'm not. So I want to say something about the partners now. We keep mentioning these partner organisations, and 3 are in the room, so they're going to talk to us. But before I do that, I want to bring Nigel back up because, like I said before, I can't run this programme at all without the help of the KTN. And I call it Nigel's magic that he works, because I think in the first round we did this, he organised 73 meetings in 3 days, these confidential partner meetings between different companies and partners. And that's not easy to do. It's not easy to get everybody's diaries synced, so you have to help him a bit with that. And I want him to give you a feel for what that process is going to be like, because this time we've got even less time to do it for Nigel to work his magic than he's done before. And I don't want him to have sleepless nights. I want you and him to work together with the partners to try and make those meetings happen as easily as possible. So I just want to give Nigel a chance to say what his part that he plays in this, because it's really important, and then we'll go through the partners.
Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, to give you a feel, your first challenge is getting the application in on the 6th, at which point you can all breathe a healthy sigh of relief and the rest of us start worrying. To give you a feel for what happens next, it goes to assessment, and as we said, on the 13th you'll get an email from Innovate UK to say yes, congratulations, that is a successful application, or no, you haven't. Please can I appeal to companies to watch their email boxes? In round 1 it was amazing, something like 10% of emails just got lost and no one realised, and I was having funny phone calls at 6 o'clock at night saying, where are you? And they'd say, we haven't heard anything. So that email, as you get that email, I'll be working in the background trying to set up these meetings between you and 1 or more of the partners. Jonathan's memory's going, unfortunately. For the first round 1, we actually organised about 120 meetings over 3 days. So I run sessions in London where we have 8 meeting rooms fully occupied for, then it was 1 hour meetings, we've now extended to 1.5 hour meetings, but we run 5 meetings in 8 meeting rooms for 3 solid days, with me trying to work out why, and we had a train strike in the middle of it as well. But please, if you could work with me in terms of keeping some key dates, if you can, available in your diary. If you definitely know there's a problem, let me know. So give you a feeling for the so once I know which partners need to see which companies, then I start to put together this master schedule. It's like the school trying to do the annual timetable, but I've got about 2 days to do it. What I try and do is if a company's meeting multiple partners, I'll make those meetings happen on 1 day, so you're not bouncing in and out. We're running them in London primarily, because that seems to be a central place where people can get to. If you are only seeing 1 partner, then we have the option of running that maybe at the partner site, so you actually see the facilities as well. But remember, the scientists or experts at those things will probably be in London with me over this particular period. So I put this schedule together and then I send you emails. We've scheduled those emails to have gone out by the 17th, which is a Monday. I hope to get them out over that weekend, so you'll get an email hopefully on either the 15th or the 16th. Probably not on the 16th, as I meant to see my parents. But I will get you a thing, and it will say, this is the provisional dates, this is the time, these are the times, these are who you're seeing. So it has the location and the time slots. We try and start at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I'm afraid I don't know the geography of where everyone is. So there'll be some people, if you're coming from Scotland, I apologise. You won't be able to make a 10 o'clock meeting without an overnight stay somewhere, but I'll do my best. I'm hoping, what we're saying is the drop dead is, if you haven't had a meeting by the 1st of October, because no one has managed to schedule diaries, it's probably very hard for you to get a proposal into the stage 2, which actually closes on the 10th of October. You need about 10 days to get everything through. We can start, as soon as everyone knows who's meeting whom, you could actually pick up the phone to the partner and say, look, can we have an early meeting? I can't make those dates. But I'm going to actually, so I rent rooms in London to run these meetings. So try and do it. To help companies know when the meetings are, it's much easier for me to say the 20th, the 21st and the 24th. Please could you make a note in your company diaries that if you're successful, there will be a meeting for you with one or more of the partners. Rather than saying they'll be all over the place, we've always tried to bring it into that. I will be understanding. The more time I have to be understanding, phoning up the day before, you'll find I'm less understanding. But we do try and schedule these as much as we can. We can also have teleconference rather than a physical meeting. Our experience is that with a teleconference, there's a much higher failure rate, and in general it involves a further follow-up meeting anyway. So making the effort into those meetings is good. But key dates in your minds are 20th, 21st and the 24th. Anyone who wants to meet on Saturday and Sunday, I'm sure we'll try and accommodate it. But note in the diaries that those are the ones when we'll do them often. But there's a drop dead probably the 1st of October. If you haven't had a meeting by then, because of diary scheduling, then that'll be hard. Yeah, that'll be fine. So that is the partner dating sessions we talk about. It's like a managed brokerage. And that's me. And that's my email address. You'll also have my mobile number. I work from a home office and I'm all over the place, so there's no point in giving you a landline number. Use my mobile. Some of you will already found out I do tend to work late into the evenings. So sometimes it's worth a punt, even if it is quite late.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigel. And I think you see there what the timescales are doing to us as well. I appreciate these are very short timescales for you guys to get your problems defined and so forth. I can't do anything about it. We were on the verge, I'll be perfectly honest, I was on the verge of cancelling the whole programme this time because I didn't think we could fit the process into what has to happen legally and organisationally for this thing to run. The only reason it works is because last night at 10 o'clock I was putting together the things so that you can apply for second stage on IFS when it comes around, and Nigel's talking about what he's doing with the scheduling of the meetings. It's only because we're trying to bend this to make it work that it will work at all. So any help you can give the partners, scientists and Nigel in particular with that would be helpful. Because I want as many as possible. I mean, I keep reiterating that, but I really do want to help as many as possible. I don't think the money's going to be a problem. I think I've probably got enough money to help as many people as can apply, but we'll see about that. You might surprise me. Okay, partner organisations then. So we have 4 world-class partners that help with A4I at the moment. They're the same 4 that have been involved in rounds 1 and 2 as well. Some of them are well known to you, perhaps some of them are not. Anyway, we've got 3 of them in the room. I'm going to talk about the other one as well. They're all equally valid in terms of helping with your problems. You may not know what facilities they can bring to bear on your problems, so don't rule any of them out. Don't choose them, just give your problem. But in order to illustrate, just introduce who the partners are, to start that dating process, if you like, today, and to give you a flavour for the couple of things that they perhaps funded in earlier rounds of A4I, just to give you the breadth of the problems that I've talked about measurement and analysis problem, much easier when you get an example. You can say, oh, I didn't realise it would encompass that. So that's why I've invited them here, why they're here today to talk to you about that. And you get to know the faces as well, because they're the people, if you go and meet them and stuff. And I just want to reiterate what Nigel said, those initial dates for getting the initial meeting, it sounds like an hour and a half meeting, whatever. You're going to have other meetings after that, of course. It's just that if we don't get those first ones scheduled when Nigel needs, you won't have the chance to do the other ones to actually write the proposal jointly and put it in for the second stage. So that's why it might sound like there's quite a lot of time there before the final deadline for the second stage, but there isn't, because you've got a lot of stuff to do with the partner once you've met them. But you can't do that until you've met them. So we have to try and accelerate the point of how you can date with them, as I like to call it. And it's been very successful in previous, my memory is obviously fading in terms of the numbers that we did in round 1. I remember the train strike though. That was horrendous. People couldn't get to the places where we'd arranged them to go. Right. I think it's MPO up first, isn't it, Paula? we've got Paula Nee from MPL. Sorry, your name's not on the slide. But
That's because you took glasses off. Morning, or is it afternoon now? So I'm Paula Nee from the National Physical Laboratory, and as Jonathan said, we're one of the 4 partners, and I'm one of 2 Paulas, I believe, speaking this morning. So we're the National Physical Laboratory, the UK's National Measurement Institute, and we're a world-leading centre of excellence in measurement science and the application of measurement science and technology. So we conduct research into advanced measurement science. We underpin the system of SI units in the UK, and we apply all that knowledge and work with businesses and other organisations in fields such as environment, energy, health, advanced manufacturing, digital communications, all sorts of, in fact, everyone uses measurement technologies. And perhaps more importantly, where the programme's concerned, is we employ over 1,000 people, most of whom are scientists. We have material scientists, engineers, physicists, mathematicians, so all sorts of people that can help you solve your problems. And those people come with extensive facilities that we have. And we love solving your problems. We love analysis for innovators. We really enjoy solving difficult problems and working with organisations that often we haven't met before. So it's really, really valuable to us. And obviously, hopefully, to you. We've actually worked with or are working with about 50 organisations. There was 24 in the first round, and those projects have all finished, and I'll give examples of a few of those. And there's about another 20 or so in the round that are just starting. And then hopefully there'll be more coming along with this round. So as Jonathan says, get your problems in. So in terms of examples, we worked with a small company that was developing a handheld point-of-care fast diagnosis instrument for a range of illnesses. And inside this device was a single-use cartridge for each diagnosis. And within that, there was a printed electrode. And the company was experiencing particularly high failure rates with that electrode, and they didn't know why. And they were able to work with us with a whole range of different, quite advanced analysis and imaging techniques to look at that printed electrode and understand what the problem was. And we could come at it from various different angles because we have a range of experts and capabilities. And it turned out that the thickness really mattered of the layer of the printed electrode, but also it was found that it was very uneven. So if the thickness mattered, in some areas it just wasn't thick enough. And so we were able to diagnose the problem and enable the company then to provide samples of different thicknesses and work out which was the optimum thickness for the process, and basically resolve the problem of failure rates, reduce the failure rates significantly. In a couple of others, we worked with a company that does accelerated testing in the energy field, and there was a particular issue with assessing water droplet damage on wind turbine blades. So that's literally the erosion caused by individual droplets. And the process of testing was largely visual inspection or weighing things to see what the damage was. So that was a downtime in the process, which slowed down the testing. And we were able to develop quite a simple non-contact system that measured the erosion damage in real time, so completely reduced the time needed to do the accelerated testing. So that helps that individual company speed up their processes, but has a longer-term impact on developing new wind turbines. And then in the last example, there is a company that makes piston rings for diesel engines for ships. And there's only a small number of companies in the world that make them, and they all have an issue meeting demand. So anything that can speed up their processes means that they're more competitive and they're able to meet more demand and sell more. The rings are chrome coated, and that reduces the wear on the rings. And this process for this particular company was the bottleneck in the system. It takes 24 hours of an electrolysis process to put the coating on, and not only is that a long period of time, but there was significant variability in the output, which meant there was a lot of rework. So the company was able to work with some of our mathematical experts to statistically analyse the process using the data they already collected, and they'd not been able to diagnose the problem in the process themselves. And then also work with them to devise experiments to test which inputs made which differences to the outputs. And as part of that process, they've obviously been able to optimize the process, and they predict that they're halving their plating time, which opens up the market for them to sell more. So that's just 3 examples of what we've done under Analysis for Innovators, using a whole range of different expertise with MPL. So please give us your problems. We really enjoy it. And even, just simply the speed dating process, as we call it, where you get to talk to a range of experts from all of the partners, is really valuable to us and to the companies that have been through it. So please apply.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Very, very good. Thanks, Paula.
I'll be here.
Yeah, Paula will be here afterwards as well to talk to anybody. Again, it's not to make a pre-arranged thing, because until you've gone through the process, you can't be looked at by all the partners. We've got another Paula now, Paula Dorrian from LGC. We're doubling up on names today just to get you all confused. And really pleased to have all the partners on board. And here's another one, LGC.
And another Paula. So good afternoon. We love this programme. So we're from LGC and the National Measurement Laboratory within LGC. For historic reasons, we are the designated institute for chemical and biological measurement within the UK. So we sit next door to MPL. We're on the same site just outside London in Teddington. We have just over 80 research scientists specialising in measurement, looking at anything in the sort of chemical and biological measurement space. So that can be from metal analysis through to nanoparticles, small molecules, protein structural characterization, right through to sort of DNA quantification, cell characterization. That's sort of the space that we operate in. And I've just given some examples here of some of the projects that we worked in. So in round 1, we worked with 5 micro and SME companies in the health, food and environmental sector. In this round 2 now, we also have 5 projects going on, and actually for the first time joint projects with MPL as well, where we're both applying different expertise to try and solve the problems. So some examples, we worked with a company called Systemic. They had a novel assay for high accuracy nucleic acid measurement for cell therapies. But they wanted help validating the methodology that they had to commercialise it and to meet the regulation that they needed to. So we have one of the only calibration facilities in the world for accurate DNA quantification within our laboratories. So we applied digital PCR, which is a sort of a way of counting DNA molecules and RNA molecules to actually support their validation. And on the back of that, they've got a number of commercial contracts, but more importantly on those commercial contracts, they've got reinvestment in their company. So it's been a really successful program for them. Another 2 examples, so Air Quality Research Limited, they have equipment that looks at air quality monitoring and produces free radicals, and they wanted to get a better understanding of their complex radical generation within their product. So by applying sort of the mass spectrometry expertise that we have within our laboratory, we're able to give them insight into their technology, and they can now look at sort of the newer technologies that they have in a trial. Southwest Sensors is a 3rd example. They have sort of continuous wearable monitors that can be used for sort of clinical applications, and they wanted to look at how and different way of how they could be used. So we worked with them in partnership with them, and that helped them with their product development to actually get a product out into the clinic. So that's sort of 3 examples of projects that we've had in the first round of A4I.
Okay, thank you. Yep, thanks, Paula. So, by the way, all the examples we're giving, we did obviously ask the companies whether we were able to talk about them like this, and they all said yes. So we don't broadcast your problems and what we do with you otherwise. There
My
is
name's Richard
a
Heathcote,
public
and I'm one of the co-founders
description
of My
on the
Band,
proposal
a
that
social
you put in
language learning
later
tool
about
that we
what
believe
what
will
work you will
replace the
do,
dictionary
and we make that
as
very
the
clear
go-to
that that's
tool
the
for
public
language
bit. We
learning.
have to say how we're spending
We're trying
money
to address two
when we give
problems.
grants, so
The first
you
is
don't
that
put
there's a
anything
distinct
confidential
lack
in
of
that bit,
anything
but the
online
rest of it is
that
confidential.
makes language learning truly relevant to each individual learner.
So, National
And the second
Engineering
is that
Laboratory,
traditional
we
language
don't have them here
partnerships are
today because they're
limited.
based in
I
Glasgow,
guess
near Glasgow, and it's a long way to come for 5 minutes to talk about that. But we did a separate briefing in Glasgow some weeks ago, and there were tours around this facility. It's a fantastic facility. It's huge. I don't know whether you can see a person on that picture, but somewhere in there. It's a huge facility and unique in the UK. And what National Engineering Laboratory did, another National Measurement Institute for the UK, they look at flow measurement, basically, flow liquids, any things that go through pipes, particularly compounds of things that, you know, when you get multi-flows in pipes, it gets very complicated about how things get stuck or how things flow properly or how fast things can flow. They have measurement techniques for doing stuff that I didn't realise you could want to measure, even measure it. And it's a very specific type of thing, but if you deal with, they do a lot of work with oil and gas type companies, obviously trying to get things down pipelines without them getting blocked and under very hazardous conditions, you know, under the North Sea and stuff. It's quite difficult to work. So they have a lot of expertise in difficult situations with fluids and flow measurement of those fluids. It's quite a specific thing, but you'd be amazed again what you can apply that sort of expertise to. It's not just oil and gas by any means, and you can make quite an interesting impact on other types of problems. So NEL will also be looking at your problems to see whether there's an aspect of it that they can help with as well. So that's National Engineering Laboratory, and finally, but not last but not least, we've got David Brown, from the Science and Technology Facilities Council, which isn't an NMI, but he'll tell you how they do relate to us.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's kind of encouraging, isn't it, to see all these people here today in such a short time span. So we're really happy to be part of this. As Jonathan said, we're the Science and Technology Facilities Council. We're kind of I would say, a hidden gem, if you will, in the research fraternity. We are a fairly large research institute, 2,000 people, £600 million budget per year. Born originally from particle science research, nuclear science, space science. So you can imagine big facilities. And born out of that, we have developed a range of advanced analytical techniques. Some of which here are described. We have got ISIS and diamond, so these are kind of chemical, physical, biological characterization techniques. One based on neutrons, the other based on light source and other forms of radiation. We've got the central laser facility, so that's all about the application of lasers. And also the Hartree Centre, which is kind of the UK's premier supercomputing centre. And all these facilities have the associated expertise and resources to actually keep them running and to help with problems that you guys might have. Some of the issues that we've come across and some of the problems that we've solved include, and this is just kind of a small flavour of what we've done in the past. One of them has been in aerospace. So there are no company names here, but you could probably work out which of the aerospace companies we are talking about here. This was a particular problem that a company had with a £10 bolt on a £30 million jet engine that failed multiple times for unknown reasons. And the neutron facility, the ISIS facility, actually looked at this in a bit of detail and found that there was a problem with one bolt that was fracturing unexpectedly. Through that understanding, a fairly simple process of pre-stressing the bolt was undertaken, and the rate of failure was much lower than previously found. So that was one way of keeping aeroplanes up in the sky through a very, very simple kind of analysis and problem-solving process. The next one is a particular problem within the pharma industry. It's a company that produced a protein-based pharmaceutical product that had a proportion of that product was a variant. And the characterization of that variant required some kind of advanced analytical method. In this instance, we used the diamond light source. The method itself is not important, but through that analysis, we were able to distinguish the variant and the original required protein. It was found that the differences between the variant and the actual product were kind of minimal. And that information was used to communicate with the regulator to allow the product to be actually marketed. So it was a way of speeding up product development, if you will. And the last one is an environmental issue. We are working with a wastewater company. Wastewater companies have lots of facilities, treatment sites, pumping sites, whatnot. And this company wanted to understand which areas within the process of running these plants required improvement. So it was a big data issue, really. And we were able to look at that data, try and understand and baseline performances of those treatment facilities against each other, and then identify areas for improvement through artificial learning and high-performance computing. So that really was a productivity-based problem. So that was a kind of a small snapshot. I didn't mention here any issues or problems or companies that have worked with the central laser facility. That's because we have a colleague here, Catherine, who works directly from that facility. So any issues or any problems related to lasers and the associated facilities, go and talk to Catherine. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thank you, David, and Catherine for being here. And I think hope that gives you just a flavour of the breadth of stuff we've been able to look at in A4I so far, with the sort of facilities and expertise we've got. You don't have to understand how lasers can help you, of course. You know, that's the joy of this program. The scientists will say, I didn't know until the first time I went to Central Laser. This sounds really silly now, but the first time I went to Central Laser Facility at STFC, I thought you just fired lasers at things to break them apart, see what they were made of and this sort of thing. At minority level, but actually you can fire them at something that creates particles that then hit something that tell you about what's inside them. And that third-party sort of laser-type particles, it just blew my mind, what you could do with that. So, again, don't need to understand the complexities of the facilities, but we have such a range of stuff, and this is world-class. I can't emphasize how good these things are. You don't get access to these sorts of facilities and expertise very often. The purpose of this program, or one of the purposes, is for you to meet the organisation, for them to apply their stuff to business and to make all this a success. So, just in summary, this is the third round of the A4I program. It's different again. It's mini projects. It's getting started. It's doing what we can to address problems straight off. It's feasibility study. It's Pathfinder. It's that sort of thing. We've learned from the format of the first two rounds in 2017 and earlier this year, and we've adapted how we offer it in that way. It is a focus on existing industry problems, but with the proviso that I said this time I will accept things that allow a new product or service to be offered by solving a problem. And it's still aimed at productivity and competitiveness. I haven't changed the aim of it at all. It still has the same wide scope of a measurement and analysis in terms of scope. I don't want to rule you out of scope, but clearly if you just want to buy a shed load more of something, that's not really something I can support with this program. And we have the 4 world-class partner organisations that you've just heard about. And I'm very pleased that they love the program as much as I do. It is a two-stage competition with some quite generous funding options if you take into account the de minimis if you're eligible, and even the match funding under certain circumstances. Certainly in terms of the cost of these, if you imagine the cost of using the particle accelerator at Harwell, it's not a cheap piece of kit to keep going. So there are some generous offers on here, but very tight timescales, and I make no bones about that, but as I keep saying, I'd rather do it quickly than not do it at all. And that's often the way we are with this. I'm hoping in the future that things will allow us to be much more relaxed about future things, but that's for the future. The focus at this stage is on what problem have you got and what's the value to solve. And if you can focus on that by Thursday lunchtime and get me lots of problems in, I will be delighted. And the partners will be delighted to have those sessions with you that Nigel will organise. And from there we'll go onwards. I will just say, one of the learning from the first round was I had no idea when I first launched this programme what the value would be of just bringing people together. I mean, we often overlook this. I know the KTN do this all the time, and not overlook it, they bring people together. And I had no idea. It's serendipitous value. We know when we have a briefing like this, you guys will talk over lunch or whatever, and you'll probably meet somebody you can go and do something with, and we don't know anything about the value of what that triggered off, but it's great. And just if you just do the first round, if you just put your problem in, if you spend a few minutes to get your problem sorted out, do a quick video, upload it, put it in by Thursday lunchtime, you get the chance to meet some scientists potentially that can help you with that problem for nothing. If you go on and do a project and all the stuff that goes in with that in terms of eligible costs and whatnot for stage 2, that's even better. But even if you don't, from round 1, we were staggered at the amount of value that companies told us they got from that first meeting with the partners. And that shows you the calibre of the partners, I think, apart from anything else. Right, so apart from that, please prepare your problems now. Don't ask me over lunch about specific things about whether you can ask me about scope, generally. I'm happy to talk about scope. Please don't wax lyrical about your individual problems with me, because I do have to assess them as part of the process, and for that reason I have to keep a distance from it. But Nigel, the reason Nigel can do that is because he's not part of Innovate UK, he's not involved with that assessment process, and you can use him as much as you want to get squeeze as much value out of Nigel as you can, so that you get your problems in, and he can help you do that. And by all means, talk to the partners about not the solutions, but the sorts of things they've done before. It might help you understand what they can do this time. Thank you very much. Good luck with your entries, and thank you for listening. I think we're late for lunch already. Have we got any burning questions online? We haven't, right? Are there any burning questions in the room? I will be around for the afternoon session as well. We do have an afternoon session of one-to-ones where you can come and talk to Nigel, to me, to the partners about things. If you want to, Jonathan can only be here for a very short time after lunch, but if you want to ask anything about, I've got this problem, I know it, how do I access IFS, or what do I put for that question? I've tried it already and I tripped over the first hurdle or whatever. Ask Jonathan before he leaves. But he's on holiday this afternoon, so don't hold him too long. And we want to help you as much as possible with this. We know the timescales are challenging, but we'll do everything we can to get you into the process, because it's really good. Thanks very much.
Okay, so
You're allowed.
I thought I'd almost go through an event then.